Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our crop walk here in Outlook. We're at the ICDC plots. My name is Kaylee Kondrachik. I'm a crop extension specialist with the Ministry of Agriculture in Outlook, and I have with me our provincial plant pathologist, Barb Ziesman. And we're going to talk to you guys today all about plant diseases. So we're going to hit up a few different diseases in some of the pulse crops, the oilseeds, and some cereal crops today. It's been quite dry in Outlook. This is all under irrigation, but we still had a hard time finding some disease, so bear with us. And you guys will see several different clips today. So when we cut out, don't worry about it. We'll be right back a few minutes later, so stay tuned. So the first thing today that we have seen, we're standing in the pea variety trials. So we've seen some Mycosphaerella. Can you tell us a little bit about that and where we should be looking on the plant, what it looks like, how to scout for it?
Yeah, so Mycosphaerella is typically a residue-borne disease. So it can be introduced on ascospores coming in on wind currents, but typically we're going to start to see it developing on the lower canopy. So if we look in here, and we're not seeing really high disease severities, but if we look kind of in the lower canopy here, we're going to see on the lower leaves that there are little black spots or starting to get some lower lesions. So with Mycosphaerella, typically we're going to start to see it having dark lesions, small dark spots, something similar to what's going on down here. But it can also have more concentric rings, as we can see kind of in some of these more mature lesions. But when it comes to scouting for Mycosphaerella blight, it is something that you want to be scouting for. Just because you see it down in the lower canopy doesn't mean you should be applying a fungicide. You're going to want to be scouting maybe come every 5 to 7 days, a little bit more frequently if it's raining, and watch the progression. So with the Mycosphaerella, we're looking for it to watch how it moves up the canopy. So if it stays kind of in that bottom third of the canopy, it's not going to be a big consideration for yield loss. It's not going to have a lot of impact. When it starts moving up above that bottom third is when we're going to start looking a little bit on risk assessment and start thinking about whether or not a fungicide is needed. So we're going to be wanting to look at the environmental conditions. So if it's going to be wet and favor disease development, maybe. But kind of watch it. And if you are applying a fungicide, leave a check strip, because research has indicated that there's not always going to be a yield benefit. The yield benefit is going to be there when the disease pressure is the highest.
So if I was a producer and I went into my field and saw this, I should just kind of lay low, not pull the trigger just yet, but keep an eye on it.
Exactly, yeah. At this stage, I wouldn't be concerned. It is very, very low in the canopy, and we have to search quite a bit to see it. So the disease pressure isn't very high. But at this stage, I would be totally okay. I'd maybe come back in a few days, especially if we get some rainstorms.
Okay.
But also watch your pre-harvest interval. So I think for peas, it's about 30 days. So once you get within that period of time, applying a fungicide is not recommended. It's actually against all label recommendations.
Okay.
So at this point, you're probably okay in Mycosphaerella in these pots.
Excellent. All right. I think that's it for the peas for now. We are going to walk over to some of the dry beans to take a look at some root rots. So stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back.
Or should we just point out the root rots that we're seeing here too?
Sure, yeah.
So if we look just at that, and then we'll look into them a little bit deeper when we get to the dry roots. So just kind of take a little walk over this way. So what we're seeing here is we're actually starting to see the yellow leaves, or the yellowing of the bottom part of the plant. So that gives us an indication that something's wrong, especially if we look a little bit further back on the other plots where the plants are still healthy. So that lower yellowing here gives us an indication that something is wrong. Unfortunately, we can't pull the plants here because they're part of a trial, but if we were to pull the plants, we're likely going to see some discoloration of the root, and maybe even some reddish brown pinching at the base of the root there, which is typical of the root rot complex. And we can look a little bit closer when we get to the